being the loss of an officer killed in the line of duty Monday night. Josh Phipps was a former LMPD officer and current deputy with the Russell County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Derek Polston said Phipps was assisting the Kentucky State Police in a search for a suspect in Russell Springs last night. After locating the man, shots were fired.
Okay, so I just want to make a couple comments on this case here. Josh Phipps is 38 years old, and they just released the name of the individual, Joshua Arnold, who is 41 years of age. So they're essentially the same age. They're only 3 years difference. The shooting took place Monday, September 16th, 2024. It was on Bluebird Drive in Russell Springs at the mobile home park in Russell County. Now, there was an active bench warrant for felony case. In fact, there was a bunch of warrants that were out. So you had one that was out of Letcher County. It had to do with drugs, resisting arrest, and public intoxication. You also had a Russell County grand jury had indicted him, but they said that the indictment was never served. The circuit court warrant was never served on Joshua Arnold, but he was charged with a handgun by a convicted felon, alcohol intoxication, marijuana, paraphernalia, and persistent felony offender. Now, I think all that stems from when the state police had arrested Arnold, but I read that the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife had pushed the charges, which, what? What does the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife have to do with anything? Now, the other warrants, or the same one, maybe the indictment from Russell County has to do with this one because there's a lot of similar things here. But the state police, they had arrested Joshua Arnold on Highway 76, which I'm not for sure if that's Letcher County or Russell County, and he had marijuana on him and he had pills, and then they said that after a struggle ensued, another pill was found. So is that the resisting arrest? You know, and then they're going to charge him with menacing and tampering with evidence and trafficking, and then he posted a $5,000 cash bond, but then he failed to appear for court on February 12th, and a bench warrant was issued with no bond. So all in all, it seems like there was 12 or 10 warrants or so. So he did have several felony warrants out on his arrest, 41-year-old Joshua Arnold. This is Josh Phipps here. Let's listen to some more of this.
Both the deputy and suspect were hit. Both later died at the hospital. It's our top story right here at 6. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Connie Leonard. Josh Phipps has ties to Louisville and served Russell County for the last 3 years. Jose Alonso spoke to the man who runs an organization focused on law enforcement families who are left behind.
All right, we'll come back to that. So there was a bench warrant that was issued against him in March for not appearing in court for a driving on a suspended license charge. So he's got a couple, he's got a lot of legal problems that's piling up, that's accruing here, right? Driving on suspended license, he has a handgun, he's alcohol intoxication, resisting arrest, marijuana, pills. Now, I want to kind of think about him in both as a defender and as a prosecutor. So first as a defender, but let's play this some more.
Jose, what were you able to find out about how the sheriff is also doing today after this?
Connie, I did reach out to the office and they said he was in no shape to talk at this moment. I also heard that he's taking this loss very hard. But Eric Johnson, the executive director of the Louisville-based organization Supporting Heroes, is down there today to support the family that Phipps left behind. Flowers and a giant blue ribbon lay on Deputy Josh Phipps' vehicle, which sits in front of the Russell County Courthouse.
So this report was issued 2 days ago, and they didn't tell us much information at all. And actually, I think that a lot more information with all the warrants has come out, but they haven't said exactly what had transpired, because the older lady in the trailer had said that a cop had shot a cop. And so therefore, Joshua Arnold is running away, and they shot him in the back. Is that what's happened? Is he attacking the officers? It just seems like there was also 20 officers that were on the scene. So, and then it was 5:30 at night. I had heard that it was 5 a.m. from one report. So there's a lot of conflicting reports. But 5:30 p.m., 20 officers are descending upon Joshua Arnold. Now, it doesn't seem to me that you would attack 20 officers. I feel like the jig is up. All right. If they got him surrounded, just come out with his hands up, just like they told him, and they might give him a rough arrest or some shit, but it's better than being shot up. Now, this report, they just said there's an exchange of gunfire. An exchange of gunfire makes it sound like Josh Phipps and Joshua Arnold had shot it out against each other. But they're being very vague, and they're being intentionally vague too. Exchange of gunfire. An exchange. So does that mean Joshua Arnold was shooting back? That's interesting. If he was shooting back, well, then that gives them kind of all the pretense in the world to shoot, to him if he's shooting either back or if he opened fire to begin with. So I think that matters a lot. And then if the cop had shot another cop and Joshua Arnold did not have a gun, well, that's a big deal, because that means you shot an unarmed man who was fleeing. Did you shoot him in the back in the Wild West? That's how they would determine whether it was, bullshit. If you shot someone in the back, it's like, how did you shot him in the back? Like, damn, man. And then, he does have 10, felony warrants out. And so when they say exchange of gunfire, they're kind of being obtuse on purpose, I think.
They've come, they've placed flowers on it. You can see some are fairly emotional.
Eric Johnson with Supporting Heroes is in Jamestown, Kentucky, visiting with the department and Phipps's family.
I've spoken with the sheriff quite a bit. We've been together quite a bit last night and today, and he's taking it very hard, as any police leader, a friend would do. And this is a small department, I believe about six deputies. His parents are obviously just very upset. This is not supposed to happen. Parents are not supposed to bury their children.
So, good and bad. So, I'm going to first be a public defender. And as a public defender, the first question I would ask is, who did he injure? Who did he injure with any of this stuff? Alcohol, intoxication. Okay, so he's drunk, walking around in public. Resisting arrest. So, they put hands on him, and he didn't like that. So, maybe you could say that's something, but that's after the fact. Drugs. The war on drugs is kind of bullshit. Marijuana should be legalized. Medical marijuana is legal in Kentucky, but you'd have to get a medical, a permission. You'd have to have a permission slip from a doctor to say that you could buy it, and then it's only in certain locations. Now, because hemp is legal, and probably because medical marijuana is legal too, there's actually marijuana/hemp fields, and I'm sure they're just using that hemp fields for rope. But the marijuana fields in Kentucky very much smell like the stickiest, ickiest stuff out there. Snoop Dogg could smoke that hemp rope and probably get himself a good high. So marijuana is kind of legal here, but not. Now, the big thing with that is the war on drugs is bullshit. But if people get into marijuana to self-medicate, that's a good thing. There's a lot of problems in Kentucky. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of poverty. And there's just a lot of insanity. And so if people need to smoke a little joint in the privacy of their own home, I would say that would be a good thing. And we don't have to throw the whole war on drugs out just yet. Slowly but surely, maybe we could go in that direction. But by keeping marijuana illegal, what we're doing is we're saying that marijuana is worse than alcohol. Clearly, crack and meth and cocaine and ecstasy and fentanyl and all the hard shit. When they say that marijuana is a gateway drug, the only reason marijuana is a gateway drug is because it's like, how many other lies are the boomers telling us? The boomers had Quaaludes and LSD and dropping acid. So the boomers have been lying to us. They've been sitting there talking about how marijuana is totally awful. There's a tobacco industry in Kentucky, and then marijuana is probably just as big as the tobacco industry, and it just makes sense with tobacco going down that the equipment and the land could be used for marijuana, and then you can make your farm payments. And then some. You probably could do pretty well raising marijuana instead of tobacco. So the entire industry of Kentucky was based upon alcohol. In fact, Jamestown, that's how America survived. The English colony of Jamestown survived by raising tobacco. So people need to smoke their cigarettes. If it comes to tobacco versus marijuana, I'd much rather people smoke marijuana than tobacco. Tobacco is just kind of a gross, it's just nicotine, and it just smells bad, and it's sticky, and it's got all those carcinogens, and it kind of gets on everything. So if I'm defending him, I would say all that. And then I would also, not only would I say that there's no injury, because when I'm looking at all this stuff, so he's got marijuana, he's got pills, so he's a pharmaceutical distributor. There's drugstores all over the place. and menacing and tampering with evidence. Was that the pill that he, what he had a pill in his pocket and he took the pill out of his pocket and tried to swallow it? That's tampering with evidence. And then menacing. All these things are after the fact. So if it's just a guy driving around with marijuana, okay, they said he was swerving or something. So, we don't want people to be intoxicated when they're driving. But the incentive for him to get into the drug industry, it's, like I said, there's insanity, there's corruption, and a lot of poverty. So the incentive actually was very much there for him to become a drug dealer and to make a bunch of money off of selling drugs. So the initial arrest, the initial things, handgun, you got the Second Amendment, alcohol intoxication, marijuana, paraphernalia, all these are drug related. The, suspended license, the public intoxication, all these things, except for resisting, or menacing, which I think would be after they say, okay, we're going to put our hands on you and then take your body and take it to jail. So it seems like to me, up until the point of arrest, that there was no injury. He didn't injure anybody. The point of the law is to prevent one person from injuring another person. And if there's no injury, then it seems like to me, why would there be any problem with any of these things? And then lastly, as a defender, I would also, I would bring out that marijuana being illegal is bullshit. I would ask who did he injure. And then lastly, I would point out that Donald Trump and George W. Bush, he's a war criminal, and Donald had 34 felonies, and there is the Trump v. U.S. presidential immunity case, but Donald has 34 felonies because of the hush money that he gave to Stormy Daniels. So he paid a porn star off, $130,000, right? So he paid a porn star off to keep her silent, and then he also falsified government records, falsified business records, and then he broke campaign finance laws. Now, you could say who is injured in that case too, but if you compare and contrast, why is it that the rich and powerful can commit 34 felonies or war crimes, and the cops will go after the poor folks, but they don't ever go after the powerful. They don't ever go after the rich people. The rich people could just pay some lawyer. The rich people could commit whatever crimes that they want, pay whatever lawyers that they want, and then they get to walk around and freely, do as they please, run for president, go sailing, go to Epstein Island, do all the things that Donald was doing. So with Donald, I think you could say the same thing, that there was no injuries. Nobody got injured. And so with Joshua Arnold, with all these, there's 10 warrants and they're felony warrants, but a lot of it's drugs. He had a handgun, public intoxication, driving on a suspended license. So with him having marijuana and all those pills, okay, maybe he's trafficking. So that's bigger deal, a trafficker, than just a person who's using. I would say a personal user versus a trafficker is a trafficker is way worse. But even then, he's a pharmaceutical distributor. There's drug stores all over the place. Oxycontin was huge. There's pain pills that's still out there, Percocet and what have you. So that's just on the defense side.
Before coming to Russell County, Phipps was here in Louisville.
And now please welcome Metro Academy Class 46.
He was a graduate of the Metro Academy Class 46 in 2021 and briefly served as a 2nd Division Patrol Officer before moving to Russell County.
He served Louisville residents, and now he was serving here.
Supporting Heroes helps families of fallen first responders in Indiana, Missouri, and Kentucky navigate their loss. Johnson says this year has seen more law enforcement deaths than usual.
Okay, so all this is fair use. Now, as a prosecutor, if I was the prosecutor, then I would say, well, he broke the law. He broke the law, even if you could say that there was no injury, maybe he broke the public trust. And by being engaged with all these, things, he's carrying a gun around because, well, who knows, you could just rob a drug dealer. And so he's got probably enemies all over the place. He's got people that could snitch on him, his customers. He's got people that want to just take his weapons and take his guns. And so he's got all this capital. He's got all this, I would think that marijuana would be a currency. Like if we were in a Great Depression or in a wartime condition, that people would still, want to medicate themselves, get a little high. Compared to alcohol, marijuana is a wimp of a substance. So as a prosecutor, he broke the law, and drugs are illegal in Kentucky, and medical marijuana is legal, but not recreational marijuana. And then the pills and the trafficking. And then when it comes to the menacing and resisting arrest, Well, you know, you're supposed to comply with law enforcement, so it'd be interesting to see those body cameras and those dash cameras of those arrests. And then in Russell County, he was never actually he was never served. The circuit court had, you know, they indicted him, so I'm glad that Kentucky is using the grand jury. But the warrant was never served to him. So how many warrants did he actually know that he had? I would say maybe half of them. But as a prosecutor, he broke the law, and he knew that he was breaking the law, and he knew that he was thwarting the law. And then, you know, you go to jail, you post your bonds, you get a lawyer, and then you fight the charges. And then we have a federalist, you know, system. So you would have the district, the trial court, then you would have the appeals court, then you would have the Supreme Court. And then we have federalism too, and there's a district court, appeals court, and a Supreme Court as well. So there's actually 5 more rungs, you know, 5 more sets of courts that Joshua Arnold could have presented his case to. But there's the public pretender. They give, you know, crappy defense. A lot of times 95% conviction rates. The public defender has to maintain a relationship with the prosecutor and the judge so he can get the other, you know, charges tamped down for his other clients. And so with the corruption and then him being poor and him not being able to afford a lawyer, I would think that, you know, he was probably just kind of running on fumes, living on borrowed time. So as a prosecutor, I would say that he broke the laws. You know, we have the laws here. He broke the laws. You're not supposed to break the laws. That's kind of the main argument that I would use. And so is he good? Is he bad? I'm not for sure. It seems to me not so much. I wonder how all this, you know, shooting went down. A gunfire was exchanged. So is Joshua Arnold going down shooting? Because he did stop for all these cops, right? How would they know about the handgun and alcohol intoxication? How would they know about the marijuana and pills? He, you know, pulled over and they talked to him. Public intoxication, you know, he got a ticket or he was arrested for all these things. So it seems like, okay, he's getting in trouble over and over again, but he's also posted in a bond, you know, so there's $5,000. When U.S. Grant had got in trouble, he posted a bond and he didn't go to court and nobody went after U.S. Grant. So war criminals, that's okay. You can kill Palestinians willy-nilly. When it comes to the wealthy, you could get 34 felonies and just, you know, walk amongst everybody without no problem whatsoever. The presidential immunity case, it says that if you're doing official business, then you're exempt, then you have absolute immunity. But if you're not doing official business, well, the hush money case is an official business. And so therefore, sentencing should have happened, and we should have seen what happened with a rich person who, you know, gets convicted and goes to sentencing. He's supposed to go to jail, right? But there's this election that's coming up, and we don't want to, just make him look bad. I mean, I know people that have ran for office and they get arrested, you know, during their campaigns. So how come some people get arrested and other people don't? Some people get arrested over a library book, right? Well, you didn't return a damn library book. I'm going to arrest you. But you could bomb the shit out of Gaza. You know, 14 was killed just the other day. I hear 50,000, the official number, 200,000. Most of them are children. So Israel just keeps on. They're bombing Lebanon. They're blowing up beepers and they're blowing up tablets and walkie-talkies and shit. So they're kind of pushing a war all over the Middle East, and they're going to expect America to defend them. And is that what we want to go and die for, you know, Israel being aggressive and sitting there genociding the Palestinians? Why couldn't they integrate Palestine? Why couldn't they do a 2-state solution? Those are the 2 peaceful ways to go about it. So presidential immunity, if it's official business. Hush money to Stormy Daniels is not official business because he was a candidate at the time. Since he was a candidate, then he wasn't a president. There's also the Clinton v. Jones case, which says that if the thing had happened before the presidency, then you don't get immunity. You don't get temporary. You get no immunity at all. So it just seems crazy to me that you have the rich and powerful who can get away with every fucking thing. Hell, it seems like Donald probably could just shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and pay some lawyer and just walk away and get away with it. So let's listen to some more of this.
But their mission will stay the same.
To support the family, to support the agency, the community, help the agency to, properly honor him, and to just basically do anything that we can to help.
Now, Johnson also told me he's helping the family plan the deputy's funeral, and they're hosting a candlelight vigil tomorrow at 7 p.m. Phipps is the 11th
Okay, so the 11th what?
Line of duty death within the state, and he...
Wow, 11 cops have been killed so far in Kentucky. I wonder how many people the cops have killed. I mean, we go on and on about how heroic these guys are. And wouldn't Donald Trump say that's not heroic to be shot during friendly fire? He said with John McCain, you're not a hero for getting captured. How are you a hero for being captured? That's not a hero. And so, he put the uniform on, and he, in his mind, it seemed like he was doing the right thing, doing the good thing. But there's several things. If the cops and the courts don't defend everybody, then the people have to defend themselves. And if we're not allowed to defend ourselves, well, then that kind of puts us in the sort of a no man's zone. We don't get the protection of the police and the fire and the EMS. So the hush money case is not official business. He's not immune, so it makes no sense for that New York judge to postpone the sentencing. Yeah, I think he got punked out. He got punked out. And too many times the rich and the powerful can just kind of thwart justice. And then the poor people, well, we have to, engage in, not we, but the poor folks of Kentucky are doing, selling drugs, trafficking, because he's poor, and so he needs to make some money, and he's making a bunch of money doing it, right? He's willing to take the chance, and the profit incentive is there. And because he's got a job, because he's a pharmaceutical distributor, the injury of other people are minute. Now, there is one injury, I guess you could say. If he sold some shit that was laced, if he had, Hunter S. Thompson was saying if he's overcharging people, but I think the fentanyl thing, if it's laced with fentanyl or if it's laced with some other shit and he's causing the death of people are overdosing, well, that's a big problem. And then there's also the kingfish. I mean, he's getting his drugs from somebody. He's not going to Colombia. He isn't going to Peru. He's not getting this stuff. You have, planes and shit that's dropping it off. And so there's somebody that's above Joshua Arnold. And then that lady had also mentioned that there's some drug dealers who's allowed to be drug dealers as long as they snitch on all the other drug dealers. So it's kind of a Faustian bargain. I've just heard this, so it could just be gossip. It could just be rumors. But it kind of makes logical sense. You just have your buddy, just sell some marijuana, and then he keeps an eye out on everybody. He can make a little bit of money. The cops can get their marijuana from him, and then they'll look out for him. But if he sees anybody else dealing, then he'll tell the cops what's up, and then they'll get, what's the Brits call it? They'll get nicked. They'll get nicked. They'll get picked up. They'll get arrested. So last thing I want to mention.
He was 38 years old. Connie?
The last thing I want to mention is let's just have some humanity for one another. Let's treat each other humanely. I think empathy can go a long way. And then what did Jesus say? I mean, he said turn the other cheek and love your enemy. I'm not pushing us to go that far, but I do think that we should treat each other as we want to be treated ourselves. And so with your neighbors, if somebody had delivered, if you got a package for your neighbor, I think you should go give that package to your neighbor. If that's what I would want. If somebody delivered a package to me and it was my neighbor, I'd want them to deliver the package to me. And so I think we should treat our neighbors, we should treat each other as we would want to be treated ourselves, which means not only should we not commit evil atrocities, but we should treat others the way we would want to be treated. So if you were to reverse the roles, if Joshua Arnold was the cop and he was arresting Josh Phipps, how would you have liked for the thing to go down? So at the end, we need to treat each other more humanely, and we need to have humanity. We're humans, but it seems like it would be progressive if we had some humanity towards one another. Let's start to treat each other with some humanity.